Q&A. Great. So the recording has started. Welcome back from break, everyone. I am Kathy Lancaster, and my partner in this presentation, Sarah, is here with me. We're going to get going on decorating together today. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. In the chat, you'll find links to closed captioning if you need it, as well as today's full schedule and a copy of our slides. So you'll find all that in the chat. And it's our last presentation of the day. We've been fired up and ready all day. This is so exciting. It might be cold outside here in Michigan, and it's actually getting dark already at 3:30 in the afternoon. But we're excited to think about summer and all together now. So I'll get started here with decorating together. As I mentioned, I am Kathy Lancaster. I am the Youth Services Coordinator at the Library of Michigan. I have nearly 20 years in public library experience under my belt, and decorating was always exciting and challenging for me for summer reading when I was in the public library. So my partner here today is Sarah. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me good? Well, good. Okay, I'm Sarah White. I'm the Youth Services Consultant at the Washington State Library. And I was a public youth services librarian for 11 years before moving into this position about a year and a half ago. So I have much experience with summer in the library and all of the exciting work that it entails.
Yeah, and you'll hear some of that inspiration from us today as we go through this. So when patrons walk through your doors this summer, we all want them to feel welcome and a part of the library. So libraries can use this year's slogan, all together now, to achieve a focus on community through collaborative creation. That just came up in the last hour as well. And so we're really excited to bring that collaborative creation into today's presentation. We hope that you'll find ideas and inspiration for making your library spaces engaging, inclusive, and exciting this summer. And this session is really meant to ignite your creativity and maybe pick up on some new ideas from around the country that we're going to be sharing. And we want to emphasize the fact that no matter the size of your library, whether you're urban, rural, suburban, tribal, the decorating ideas you hear today, just like the programming ideas that you encounter in our manual and in the presentations today, those can all be adapted to fit your needs and the size of your library. So we're going to kick this off with a quick little icebreaker, so to speak, for you all. Sarah just put a link in the chat. I'll follow it up again. We want you to tell us what gives you energy. Does decorating overwhelm you? Does it fire you up? What's your first instinctual thought about what you think for decorating in the summer? And we have this Menti link in the chat that we want you to populate. And I'm going to open it up. We're just trying to give you a few seconds to put that first word. You know, we just want you to put that in the Menti. We're going to do a word cloud here. So not in the chat, but in the link. I see some fun answers coming through in the chat too. And we're going to pop. Oops, of course I gotta do another share screen because I messed this up, but we're starting to see these words come through. Can you see the screen, Sarah? All right, so I'm seeing creative, excited, overwhelmed, fun. Do I refresh this, Sarah?
Yeah, if you refresh it, it should repopulate. I love that excited is like staying in the middle. It's interesting.
Excited is, and oh, I see apprehensive, overwhelming, creative.
I like, how can I use glitter?
Refresh it again. It's growing. Awesome. Well, thank you all. I just wanted to do that real quick to see how everyone was feeling today. You're muted, Sarah.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to put the link to the word cloud so you could access it later and see how your colleagues feel. So we wanted to start by acknowledging that this year's theme might at first seem trickier to decorate with than previous years, simply because the theme is just less concrete. It's definitely easier to conceptualize how you might decorate your library with an ocean theme or an animal theme. And altogether now is less explicitly visual of an idea. It's less tangible than things like ocean or fish or tails. And we're really hoping during this presentation to inspire you, because we think that this is an opportunity. This theme is an awesome opportunity to co-create your library space with your community and also think a little bit outside the box about how you might represent the theme visually in your library. We want you to feel free to express what altogether now might mean in your unique community and library space. So there's a few questions we want you to sort of mull over, and you can feel free to respond in the chat if you have an answer or do this later. But we want you to think about things like, what does your community like to do together? What could you create that will bring people into your space and help them feel like the library belongs to them? And how can you truly decorate together with your patrons? Please feel free to put those in the chat. We'll share some of them out in a second. One idea we had to kickstart bringing this abstract theme more concretely into your brain is to do some brainstorming on your own or with your staff or community about things that go together that are unique to your community. So an example I thought of for my community, I'm from Washington State, is mountains and water, or fruit and orchards, or salmon and rivers and streams, or coffee and rain, in my case, in Western Washington. So we're going to look at the chat for a minute and see if we can call out a few ideas, maybe that were brought out from those questions. I see boards. Yes, I think that's a great idea.
Yes, and community puzzle. I see somebody's centennial is coming up. And so they really think this all together now goes hand in hand with that big celebration in their community.
Farming and city. I like that. I also really liked, it was mountains and maple syrup in New Hampshire.
Oh, Marissa said red and green, as in the red and green chili in New Mexico. So that might
Nice.
battle the maple syrup a little bit.
Turtles and sun.
Quilts.
These are great ideas. Historical and historic and rural. Yeah, I like that some of the ideas are maybe more abstract, but still things that bring you together.
Yeah, animals. Rhonda mentions, they can be incorporated in any theme. I highly recommend you work with maybe a local zoo or a park.
Awesome. These are great ideas, and you can keep them coming. I think I'll go on to the next slide, but feel free to keep putting those ideas in chat. Railroad and bananas. That's my favorite so far. So before we dig into some more of our concrete ideas of how you might decorate your library for summer 2023, we also want to talk a little bit about the purpose of decorating the library to kind of ground us in like why we do this. Again, feel free while I'm talking to give us a little bit of insight to why you decorate your library. We now know how you feel about it, but maybe thinking a little bit more philosophically about why, what's your purpose, what's your end goal while you're decorating. So I'm going to go through some of the reasons we brainstormed about why decorating is important. So first, we really want the library to be a warm, inviting, and celebratory space in our community, and decorating is a great way to do that. Second, we really care about inclusivity. We want everyone who walks in the doors of our buildings to feel welcome and included and like they've been thought of in this space. Third, it's sometimes really helpful to use visuals to help patrons understand your library's mission, vision, and the theme, the summer reading theme you're going for. Fourth, as we saw in the word cloud, we also know that decorating is something that for many of you gives you energy and helps you build excitement for the summer. And that's really important because if your joy comes through, it'll come through to your patrons. And it's just fun and you like doing it. Fifth, decorating can refresh the library and make it feel like an alive space that evolves. We all know from experience that changing things about your space can help people notice new things about it. Like if your sign is in the same place for 100 years, you stop seeing it and people stop reading it. So changing things around can help see people in your library see it with new eyes. And then sixth, I want to mention that it is possible that your library is already accomplishing all of these goals without extra summer reading themed decorations. Maybe you can make the decision to focus on other things if decorating isn't inspiring you. We don't want people to feel constrained by the theme as long as you're working towards these goals in your library. We also want to mention that we don't want you to feel pressure and inadequacy because you see other librarians doing spectacular, amazing decorations on social media and other venues. You should not feel like your personal decoration skills are a reflection of the amazing work you do in all other areas in the library. There are so many ways to accomplish the goals we just talked about. The real ultimate goal is engaging your patrons in the summer. And if decorating is your thing and you are great at it and you love it, that is amazing. And if it's not your thing, that is also okay.
Those are such great points, Sarah. It's definitely something we hear a lot from folks in our feedback around our themes and our programming. So I appreciate, everyone do what you can, do what you're able to, and do what gives you energy and inspires you. So thank you all for these awesome shares in the chat. We are going to save them and repost them along with the handouts and recordings in the coming days from CSLP here. So next, we're going to roll up our sleeves and try to show you some concrete ideas on what we've gathered. We'll start with the 2023 artwork that inspired us. Decorating your library can be a great excuse for programming and outreach in the summer. Whether you're conducting school visits or planning storytime crafts, you can use those spring programs to collect community artwork. So, start thinking for this spring that you might engage with families on some of the programming ideas that we have coming up, sorry. And that will help bring them back in the summer if they know that their artwork is going to be displayed. So first of all, we want to give a big shout out to Frank Morrison, our 2023 All Together Now artist. There's a link that will pop in the chat here to Frank's site, but we got to have him in Michigan once and he's really just such a great guy. We wanted to try to help you see how these posters might tie into your programming or your decorating this summer. And we'll demonstrate some ways that you can do outreach this spring in order for kids to recognize their own work on display in the library this summer. So we'll get started.
So we're going to start with this poster and some ideas of how to decorate using the images in this poster as a starting off point. One thing we thought you could do is decorate a bulletin board or the front of your desk or another space in the library with a photo montage of either Polaroids or like those instant print pictures from cameras or printed from a printer pictures of patrons holding up a favorite book. Because in this image, you can see it's kids holding up books. As people sign up for summer reading or read or just visit the library, you could take a picture of them with a Polaroid or a digital camera with a book that they love, holding it up in the air, print it and put it on a gallery wall or a bulletin board or a display. And you could even piece the photos together to form the letters of the alphabet, just like the kids are in the photo. You can see that they are shaped like ABC.
And there's a
Also
fun
system. Oh, go
fun
ahead,
idea,
Kathy.
yep, about shelfies in the chat there.
Another idea we had connected to this poster is to put out different colored triangles or shapes, perhaps in colors that reflect the colors on the poster, and also leave out a pen and have patrons write the names of books they've read over the summer on the shape and add them to a display. They can kind of build their own like artwork mosaic as the summer goes on. You could even outline the ABCs on a bulletin board with painter's tape or chalk to show people where to fill in their shape. In this photo, you can see this idea expanded to create giant foam cutouts and make an interactive artwork piece on the ground rather than just on the wall. Next, we wanted to look at this poster, which features a group of people working together to build a robot, probably in a library since there are shelves of books. And one idea we had for that reflected this poster was hosting an art party either before summer starts or at the beginning of summer, where you could have kids and adults and teens come together to build a robot out of recycled materials. You could also have this be a collaborative, progressive art project that continues throughout the summer. Every time a kid comes in throughout the summer, they could add a piece to your robot, and then the completed piece could become your library's mascot. Like in this photo here from the Kalamazoo Valley Museum. If that's overwhelming to you to have everyone working on one piece of artwork, you could also have patrons either in a workshop or at home build their own robot out of recycled materials, like in this picture on the right, and create a gallery of robots in your library. And people could use discarded electronics, cardboard boxes, anything you could imagine. Another thing that literally goes together are Lego bricks or other brick building materials, which many of us have in our libraries already. Using Lego or other brick building materials, you could have everyone who registers for summer reading build one small piece of a bigger scene. So the photo in this photo has like a giant sort of city made out of Lego, and all the kids could bring one little piece of the city, a building or a car or something that they could add, and it could grow throughout the summer. Your display does not have to be as massive as this one, but there is a step-by-step guide linked on the slides, which all these slides will be provided to you. So you could click on the link. Oh, and I think it's also going to go in the chat. If you don't have the space to build a giant scene like this, which probably many of you do not, you could let each person who signs up take one Lego or brick and build a giant sculpture as you go, kind of like the robot idea where you add a piece to it and then it can become a giant sculpture throughout the library. All right. And then we have this poster, which features a group of people creating a giant collaborative street art mural. You could take the idea from this poster pretty literally. You could create a chalk or painted mural outside in the library parking lot or the street or the sidewalk outside, or you could do it somewhere inside the library on butcher paper or on a wall. This would be a really great opportunity to hire or work with a local artist to help, or collaborate with an art studio or a college class. And this could look like a lot of things. It could be a mandala, it could be a word like in this picture. It could be a giant paint by numbers in the library that people get to add to as they visit. You could choose a word or an image that fits your community, or have a patron contest to design the artwork that gets filled in. And I have an example of when this was done. So this is an example project from my own community. I live in Olympia, Washington, and our local high school hosted a design contest. And the student with the winning design had the opportunity to work to get it actually painted in the intersection near their school. So the students all voted on their favorite design, and then more than 60 community members of all ages, so it wasn't just the school, it was also neighborhood representatives, came together to work with a local muralist and the teen who created the winning design. So they executed the project all together. I think it took a few days to get it painted, and there's links to articles about how they made that happen in the slide. If you aren't able to do a large scale outdoor or indoor mural like the one in the previous slide, you could also just have a giant piece of butcher paper out and have everyone add to it themselves. This is a picture from the Tennessee State Library where everyone had their own little mandala stencil, and they were able to add a little mandala onto the bigger paper. And you could display that somewhere in the library after it's complete. This is the last poster we wanted to give you some ideas for. So you can see that it features adult patrons reading on what looks like a park bench. You could create that scene in your library. On the right, you can see a picture example of what that could look like. You could create a little park bench and a tree and either have it be a cozy reading spot or a place for photo ops as people sign up for summer reading. Since this poster also features people reading out and about in the community, not just in the library, you could also create a display where people can contribute to their answer to the question, where do you read? Patrons could write their answer on a piece of paper that goes onto a bulletin board or a display, or even bring in a photo of themselves reading in different places around the community to create a display that sort of builds all summer long. And you could also share these photos on social media. So it could be both a physical display and a display online. We also, some people have mentioned this in the chat already, but we wanted to call it out specifically. We want to remind you that Stick Together has officially licensed posters using this year's CSLP art. If you don't know what Stick Together is, it's basically a communal paint by numbers activity, except with little pixel stickers. It's like shrunken down Post-it pixel art. And patrons can add a sticker to the poster as they come in or as they sign up or as they read, like they can get a sticker for every book they read. And as they add the stickers, it comes together to form the picture image. And this year you can purchase posters featuring both the Frank Morrison artwork and our extra artwork by Odd Shattuck as shown in these images. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to talk a little bit about the extra art and how you might use that as decoration inspiration.
Great. Well, thank you, Sarah. Some great ideas coming from the posters alone. And then we move into this awesome new artwork from Odd Shattuck. So in addition to the pieces of art pulled from Frank Morrison's poster images, we offer you this supplemental art to use in your flyers, your brochures, with the press. Basically, it's additional clip art to help promote your summer reading program in ways that we know libraries really like to get out there and in touch with their community. So this additional clip art, of course, was created by multimedia artist and designer Odd Shattuck, but she also happens to work at a library here in Michigan. The colors are inspired by Frank Morrison's posters, but we just wanted to get a better link and close-up imagery around this theme this year. So it is available in the online manual as well. And everyone with a manual who is a member of CSLP does receive an online code with their membership. And you can reach out to us if you have questions about that or with your state rep. So if somebody actually from our team can put a state rep link in, that'd be great. So with this artwork, you can see these are just a few of the pieces. We've got ideas on creating screens around gaming, audiovisual materials in your library, early literacy, and of course, book recommendations or, library love, as I like to call it, all the handprints around the book and the heart. So as families sign up for summer reading, you can have them trace a handprint or color and cut their own figurine, and then you can work to put those links together with paper, and you can string them along your ceilings, your shelves. It'd be really cool to see the different styles and sizes and colors that your families use. And you can also print handprints or take Polaroids and have kids place them around maybe a display of a tree or an image of the earth, much like the bottom graphic here. You can put up a map of your community and have families trace their handprints or create their own hearts to wrap around that map of your community. Sorry, I'm running all the screens here. So some additional ideas that this beautiful watering can over the plant inspired was a gratitude tree. I think in our last webinar, we talked about the wisdom tree last hour. So we were thinking about a gratitude tree where they can stick up leaves or plants or flowers that will grow as they water them, which means, like, you know, maybe when the kids are coming in to report for summer reading, they get a leaf or a flower to put and grow that gratitude. They can also put items up about how they love their community. You can do bigger ceiling displays around this. So perhaps you hang water droplets from your ceiling, and then you have plants or images of plants cut out and on the tops of your shelves or around your room. And we can see that as a community, as we water these plants, they really grow. Okay, so to be honest with this one, I can't help but think of the famous Beatles album cover for Abbey Road. But what I love about it is the inclusivity. So if you look really closely, you can see different age legs in there. They represent different ages. There's a walking stick. And of course, if you look in the center there, there is a prosthetic leg. So I really love that this image not only reflects to all together now, but also inclusivity. So one of the ideas we have about this is, of course, just like they can design their own hearts or handprints, they could design their own shoe print. They can design their own shoes or their own feet and have them add it to a bulletin board or laminate them, and you can stick them on the floor and have them leading you into a certain area of the library or up to the summer reading check-in desk. Also, a photo op. So I had the idea of, like, you can create a crosswalk leading into your library or into areas of your library, and then you could put a floor length mirror laying down horizontally. You can have them reflect and draw or take quick pictures of different groupings of feet as they walk through. You can also put a reflection activity up around it, such as questions. What do your feet look like when you skip? How long do you think your stride is when you take big steps, little steps? You can also include a measuring tape along with that mirror. So you can do a little bit of reflection and engagement around that piece. And of course, here we've got some ear pods being shared. You know, we were thinking about QR codes. You could put those up around your library and displays to link to playlists and audiobooks. So anywhere where these ear pod images are, that it might be a cue that they know that there's a playlist available. You can offer an interactive bulletin board where you ask for write-in suggestions about what they're listening to this summer or what they're watching this summer, and you can build a playlist out of that. Another idea is to have people write a song that they love, and then you create a QR code on display that folks can scan to activate that collaborative, like, songs we love playlist.
All right, so this year's CSLP theme is a great opportunity to engage your wider community in collaborative decoration. You can find ways to work with your patrons, local arts organizations, schools, children's museums, community organizations, or anything else you could imagine to create artwork for summer at your library in collaboration with the diverse people who live in your community. There are people with all sorts of wonderful talents who would be likely very excited to help make your library a magical place during the summer. So we're going to give you some ideas that engage your community. So our first idea was creating a tiny art gallery, and it comes to you from the West Bloomfield Township Public Library in Michigan. That's where that photo is from. You could hand out tiny canvases, super little ones, throughout your community, or to local artists, patrons, students at school outreach, and then tell them to bring them back in and add them to a tiny art gallery in your library that would grow as patrons come in and start participating in summer. This is something you could do before summer, which is cool. So it could be ongoing throughout. We also had the idea to crowdsource decorations by having them help you create origami garlands at outreach events or in the library. You could host either an origami making workshop or a passive station and have people leave their creations in like a basket, and then you could string them together and use them to decorate your library. Another way to decorate while simultaneously making the library feel inclusive and like it's a space that belongs to your community is simply to leave out Post-its and a prompt and let your patrons respond on a bulletin board or wall. This was in the library I used to work at in Olympia, Washington. We had, this is actually in the teen zone, we had one side which was a question of the moment, and then the other side was just a Post-it art gallery, and people could just like draw a little piece of art and stick it up there. And this question was, what makes you feel cozy in winter? And people could put their ideas up. They're all ideas of cozy things. This is another example of a prompt in the same library with the question, if you could time travel, when would you go? We got some really interesting responses. And because it's anonymous, patrons were able to be really honest and open, and the answers were often like really thoughtful and interesting. You could think of Post-it prompts that relate to this year's theme, for example, and some ideas I had for that are, what do you love about our community? What's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you or that you've done for someone else? What do you love to do with your friends or family? And what is one thing you would do to make the world a better place? Another nice thing about Post-its is that you can take them down very easily if there's one that's like not library appropriate.
All right, I'm a little trigger happy on the slideshow today, sorry. All right, another example of something you can do is a self-portrait gallery. And I think this one is especially great to do with your teens, but anybody could do it. They can, you can set up a mirror. You can make it a passive program where you set up a mirror and some drawing paper and supplies and let folks submit their self images. Or you can do it as an outreach engagement program when you're out speaking to the schools in the spring, or with your teen advisory boards. You know, it's a really great one that you can offer. And this is an example from, again, from Michigan, from Lake Fenton schools, of what that might look like, those self-portraits all together now on display. So another great example, you are seeing Sarah's daughter's work along with her husband. Casey and Toby were able to provide us with this great collaborative draw. So if you can do this as a program together with families, it's really fun. So one person will start the drawing, maybe add a line, add a shape. You can cue them to begin perhaps with their favorite shape, and then it might turn into something really fun like this. I believe Toby's jumping on a trampoline with a mouse. So another way to think about decorating together is creating decorations and bulletin boards and displays that invite interaction in some way, or a photo opportunity. And this is a image from a librarian in Clinton-Macomb County. And this is a Be Kind poster. So this is being the I in kind. I really love this one. I know families love a good photo op, especially when they come in to register for summer reading. It's a great chance to have families help promote summer reading on their own social media. This is another great project to do with teens, neographic art. This was new to me. It came to me from Kersley High School. And neographics is a way of drawing that recreates the outer from the inner. So the world is a reflection of the beliefs we hold. Beliefs are arbitrary limits on what is possible, and therefore frame the limited way in which the world is experienced. This comes out of Russia in 2015, as far back as I can tell, this artwork, this neographic art. But basically, you're asking teens to express themselves through these abstract processes. And this also makes a great mural, maybe for your teen space. Of course, you can do this with any age group as well. Another example is a photo frame. This was like a last minute photo frame I made out of a cardboard box, real quick, Sharpies, some cutout images for Imagine Your Story. You know, and it was a big hit at the Collaborative Summer Library Programming annual meeting that year. So you know, make those photo frames, set them about the library. It's really great. Tammy, I see your question. We do have the description for neographic art on the slides. There's a link to it. All right, so our friendship benches. These are also known as kindness or buddy benches. And you can decorate one. You can either do a collaborative decorative time where, you know, families come in and paint this bench or paint multiple benches, and then you can go place them out and about in your community or within your own library. But if you put them out in the community, it's a great way to promote your library. You can do a friendship bench courtesy of XYZ library. So those are really fun. When you call them a buddy bench, schools often use them for if a child doesn't have anyone to play with on the playground, they can go sit on that bench and a buddy will come. So maybe in your library, they're the reading bench. If somebody wants to read aloud with somebody else, they can sit on that bench. All right, I think Sarah found this one, and I saw it in the chat really early on during our conversation today, was a giant puzzle. So you can buy a giant blank puzzle or create one using cardboard, draw the lines on the back, cut it out, and then leave the pieces just kind of scattered for people to decorate, not for them to put together, but to decorate and submit or turn in a piece. Or maybe when they register for summer reading, they submit their puzzle piece. And then you can put it up and display it on a bulletin board for the rest of the summer. And of course, who doesn't love cutouts? So for this year, you know, all together now, you can talk about different regions of the world. So you can create different maps or imagery from around the world that they can put their heads through. You can, of course, do animals that live in packs and have the different animals out. You could also think about careers that work together. For example, firefighters, you know, they have to work together to put out those fires. So that's a great one. And I'm looking forward to seeing the cutouts that people think about this year.
All right, so we don't always think of book displays as decoration, but I wanted to share some amazing interactive book displays that doubled as interactive decor in the previous library I worked at. All of the displays I'm about to feature were created by my amazing colleague, Freddie Weinberg from the library I used to work at, the Olympia Timberland Library in Washington State. Freddie still works there. And they are an interactive book display genius. And I wanted to showcase some of the phenomenal ideas they have of ways to make the book displays that are true co-creations with the community. So I'm going to like lightning round these ideas. So this first example is an alphabet book display where Freddie left out little circles of paper with letters of the alphabet on them with crayons, and patrons could draw a picture or write something that started with that letter and then stick it up on the display. So there were alphabet books featured, and then a billion ideas of things that started with different letters of the alphabet. The idea on the left is similar to the first one, but instead of featuring ABC books, they featured books about animals and had patrons write or draw a favorite animal. and put it on the display. And on the right, it was a similar idea, but with books instead of animals. So you would write your favorite book, and then we would actually add the books that they wrote if they were not if they didn't have billion-year-long hold lists, we would add them to the display. So it was kind of an alive book display. These are a few of my favorite ones. On the left is part of a display featuring world language books. So we featured books that weren't in English, and they also put out a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker and just asked what languages the families who interacted with the display spoke at home. And we got a bunch of really great responses. As you can see, there's Czech, Dutch, ASL, Korean, some Japanese. And I love that this display featured the diversity in our community, and it also helped us learn more about who was coming into the library and what languages the families we serve are speaking at home. And then on the right is a similar idea with for Poetry Month, where they featured poetry books for kids and then created their own version of magnetic poetry. So those are all just like laminated words with magnets on the back. And every time we walked by, someone would have created a totally new poem, which was really cool. And we could control what words were there, which was really nice. The picture on the left-hand side is an interactive display, which is super creative, that Freddie created, called May Music Madness, and it was inspired by March Madness. And the books featured were books about music. And each week while the display was up, we would put out 2 jars, and it's like a basket of pom-poms. And each jar was labeled with an instrument, and you put a pom-pom in the jar of the instrument you liked better. And then the winner of each matchup was written on that whiteboard in the back. And then we just kept going until there was one ultimate winner of the favorite instrument in our community. And then on the right-hand side, it was actually a New Year's resolution display. People put we put some ideas of goals you might have for the new year and just some star stickers out. And you could just stick a star on the goal you were hoping to accomplish. And we featured books that matched those goals. The next one is one of my absolute favorite displays we have ever done. We turned our display table into a giant pizza, and we featured books about pizza, and we had die cuts of different pizza toppings, and you were supposed to decorate and add your favorite pizza topping to the table. And then we actually calculated at the end what Olympia's favorite pizza toppings were and created a pie chart that we shared on social media. And then on the picture on the left, that is the owner of one of our local pizza restaurants. And he actually donated t-shirts to raffle off for this display. So you could also enter to win a t-shirt for Old School Pizza. That was really fun. We did a drawing. This is the last one I'm going to share of our book display lightning round. This was way back in 2015, our display for Every Hero Has a Story. And we put some ideas of things we were doing over the summer and asked people to put a sticker on the thing they were most excited about. So you can see that people were really excited about reading lots of books, and also some of our special guest performers. So that's a good way to find out what people are hoping to engage with. Another cool thing about co-creating with your community is that you can create things that will benefit your library and your patrons beyond summer itself. We had a question in the chat about how to maybe decorate more environmentally responsibly. And I think this is a great way to do that by creating things that aren't just going to get thrown away at the end of the summer, but that you could actually use into the future. So here are some of those ideas. The first, again, is from I have a lot of ideas for my library, which was the Olympia. Someone asked in the chat, the Olympia Timberland Library in Washington State, in the state capitol. So this is an example. In 2019, we realized we needed a new storytime quilt because ours was getting kind of ratty. And one of my colleagues' partners is a member of the Southdown Modern Quilt Guild. And we had the idea to ask them if they'd be willing to work together to create a quilt for the library. So I'm going to read a really short quote about what they posted on their Facebook page when the quilt was finally complete. So it says, "We are thrilled to finally present our new Storytime quilt. This quilt was created and donated by the Southdown Modern Quilt Guild. The project was first conceived in late 2019 with production beginning in early 2020. You might imagine what was happening then. An art block and aesthetic template were selected. Then dozens of guild members from across Timberland Regional Library service area picked up fabrics and created their own blocks. Each artist selected book cover fabrics to inspire what stories might be told within. So you can see each block is a book, and the quilter got to choose what was on the cover of their book. Much of the block creating and sewing was done during quarantine, and all the blocks were pieced together throughout the summer and fall. And then they're displaying it in the library for now. So it's up on the wall, and then once it's done being displayed as decoration, it will become story time for kids to sit on. This is another idea of a permanent interactive sort of thing, and it's a mural that the idea comes from the Superior Township Library in Michigan. In designing a new library branch, they decided they were also going to create an interactive ground mural at the library in partnership with a local artist named Ian Azzaro. The image on here is an idea of what it could potentially look like, because I don't think it even exists yet. There's still the design process. But in the article about the project, Azzaro said, what we mean by interactive is that we're looking at possibilities and ways that we can offer visual cues from the design of the mural itself, so that people will be enticed to roll, walk, jump, or play on the ground mural itself. We also want it to be an inviting space that is approachable and accessible for everyone. So creating an interactive mural like this inside or outside your library can make the library more inclusive. It could be a sensory path to make your library more welcoming to autistic patrons or little kids who need to get wiggles out. There's a link in the slide to this group that made the mural in the picture. They're called Mindful Murals from Anaheim, and they have a lot of really awesome examples of both visually beautiful and interactive murals. And then this idea from the YALSA blog is to engage your community in creating new bookends for the library during the summer. You could have a workshop or a passive station or a take-home project in which local patrons and artists could paint new bookends for the library. So it's kind of like the tiny art gallery, except instead of painting on a canvas, they're painting on a bookend, and then you could use it in your library throughout the future until you need new ones, and then you paint more.
Thanks, Sarah. And again, I agree. Some of these are really great environmentally that we can reuse, or even for all together now, you can take out past year's art, say all of our summer reading themes combined through the years. Also using dry erase boards and instead of paper bulletin boards, things like that. Definitely great ways to move forward. All right, so I want to make sure we have a few minutes of time to answer our questions. So I'm going to zoom through these peace polls. This came out of St. Charles Public Library, and these are their Oceans of Possibility polls. They were decorated all in one spot, but then they put them at their various branches around the community. And at the end of the summer, they raffled them off. So I thought that was a really great idea. Kindness rocks. I think most of us have heard of these and seen these out. If you're a hiker at all, I see them hidden in trees and around corners on the path. It's really great. So you can have a kindness rock inspiration garden out there. So you can start this by it's collaborative creation with your families, or your friends of the libraries, any age. They can create these rocks, and then you can put them in a rock garden for people to take. Also, donation boxes can become a display in itself. If you have some display windows, or you want to hang some things up. These photos are from when I was at the Traverse Area District Library here in Michigan, and we did a pajama drive for youth. And so that was really great. You can see loads of pajamas came in. People felt all together that they were contributing back to their community, but also it created a great window display for a few months. Finally, this idea has come in through our Facebook group, through the CSLP program planning group, from multiple people. This photo is from Elizabeth in Marion County, and she's looking for library cards. And she's going to be putting up a display of all these library cards from around the world. I've also heard that someone was doing a tree for this holiday season out of library cards from around the world, or around the state, or excuse me, country. It might be easier for you to ask for people to scan an image of their library card and you just print it out, or you might want to collect those cards. that's up to you. And then we were talking about environment. Maybe you make a digital display. You can put these up on monitors to loop around in certain areas of your library on a TV screen. All right. Yes, Jennifer, you will get a copy of the chat box after today. It will be up on our site. So what is next? Okay, get out your cameras, get out your pencils, put these links down. They'll be in the chat as well. We are going to ask you all to share some ideas on this first link, the CSLP Decor 23. That's going to be where you can submit an idea. You can load a picture there as well. And then in order to view what's coming in is going to be the other thing. Now, currently it's not populated, so we're going to rely on you all to populate that after today with your ideas. And we'll be sharing it on our Facebook group as well. Speaking of Facebook, where do you get more decorating ideas and more programming ideas? Well, we have pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CSLP Reads. You can also join one of our 2 Facebook groups, and Sarah's popping all this in the chat for you. We have a Feeding the Whole Child Libraries and Food Facebook group that is moderated by our Child Wellbeing Committee here at the Collaborative Summer Library Program, as well as the programming page where people can share all their ideas. And don't forget, we're going to have a social media toolkit this winter from our social media team, and that will be shared out as well. And finally, we have a newsletter that we push out. And if you haven't signed up for that, we're going to put that chat. Oh, Sarah already did in the chat there. So make sure you hit that link and sign up for our newsletter. Now, we want to hear from you. We know you have a few questions. I believe Adrian's going to come on and let us know what we should answer. Hi, Adrian.
Hello, Kathy. Okay, so one of the first questions is, when you're dealing with people who have an independent personality and it comes to decorating community-wise, how do you make them feel a part of that if they are one that wants to work more independent?
So rather than doing a collaborative piece of art.
We're doing a collaborative, but making them feel that they have an equal part in the atmosphere.
That's a great question. I think probably giving them a specific job would be helpful, saying like, you're in charge of this specific thing. And then they could go off and work on it by themselves and bring it in. I'm looking at that question, the idea of there being too many cooks in the kitchen. I feel like this might be controversial, but I feel like that's okay this summer. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I would rather my community feel involved in what we're doing than have the library feel like tidy and neat. Like, I want it to feel like every community is chaotic and vibrant and wild, and like, I personally would be okay with the library feeling that way, but I totally understand that not everyone maybe feels that way. So I invite suggestions of ways to control the chaos.
Okay, another question, what is a community book fence?
Was that a suggestion in the chat?
I believe it was.
Okay.
It was not from Sarah and I, so I am curious about that too.
Well, if anybody knows the answer, if you place it in the chat, that would be great. Okay, so decorating more environmentally friendly, like because you're using paper and plastic and it gets tend to be thrown away at the end of summer. So are there just suggestions on making on the theme on decorating more environmental friendly?
Sure. I'll just go ahead and repeat a few of the ideas, definitely being intentional and doing things that you can either reuse in future years, using whiteboards, using digital displays, making longer, bigger pieces of art that we talked about, such as the Storytime quilt or the peace poles. I think those are all great ways.
And if it's not something you can keep in your library, making things that could maybe like rotate through the community afterwards, like thinking about decorating less in terms of putting up a bunch of disposable paper, but like creating like real installations of things that can be shared out once you're done with them.
And then another question is for the tiny art gallery. Would you make it theme-based, or would having the community members sharing their work be enough to make it as a working together?
I think you could do either. This might be a good time. I don't know if we talked about it directly, but one of the brainstorming ideas, I believe it was out of New Mexico, was that what things go together. So that could be, you could do a prompt like that for your tiny art gallery. What goes together? And then see what they create, you know, burritos, maple syrup, and snow. That sort of thing.
Okay. And then 2 questions about the book end craft. What kind of paint is recommended or has been used?
So it's funny because I'm doing this presentation about decorating and I am like the worst at knowing things about craft supplies and decorating. So probably people in the chat have ideas about that, but I think there are ways to use pretty much any kind of paint as long as you like prep your surface and seal it properly afterwards. I think you probably could just use regular acrylic paint. Or if you know that it's going to be a transitory thing, like you use it until it's worn out and then you paint it again. Like I don't think you don't want to get stuff on the books, obviously. So you want to make sure it's sealed because of that. But I think there are ways of having it be semi-permanent.
Okay. And then this one showed up. So you guys may have answers, or somebody in the chat. For libraries that collect items for charitable distribution, how do you distribute?
Well, that's
the Captain Underpants idea.
that's definitely the collaborative part of collaborative summer library program, right? Go out into your community and first of all, you need to find out your community's needs. So we find that there's a great need for socks, underwear, pajamas, that sort of thing, and work with a local shelter or a United Way or even another organization in your community that can help distribute those items that you collect.
That's all the questions we had in the Q&A. So Kathy, you want to take us away?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Sarah. And thanks, Adrian, for the assist there. But Sarah really drove this project. It was inspired from some questions we were getting about all together now. How do we decorate for this? And I hope that you all feel inspired as well. We have a great chat happening. I'm going to save all that right now so that we can post it later on our website. And those links are also in your chat on how to access these. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the entire summer library summer symposium planning committee. I am all tongue-tied now. So CSLP summer symposium committee was made up of state reps in our membership. And I just want to give them a big shout out for planning and presenting here today. I'd also like to thank all of our speakers today, starting out with Tracy Hall from ALA this morning. That was fabulous. A recording of that will be available online. If you missed it earlier, be sure to check it out. It's truly inspiring. We also had ALSC's Library Service to Underserved Children and their caregivers, a panel of committee members from that, as well as intergenerational programming with Wendy and Jen before today's presentation with Sarah and I on decorating. So thank you to all of our presenters. And a final reminder to please complete our survey. This is how we're going to know what you guys are looking for. Should we offer a symposium again? That sort of thing. So please do fill out that survey today and then head to our website to check out anything that you might have missed today, and give us a few days to get recordings and chat boxes and all of that information up online. But thank you all so much for being with us today. And a special shout out to CSLP's amazing customer service coordinator, Melissa Hook. She's hiding here. You can hit stop on the recording